Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that makes this X is for Podcast, your premier response show for all your favorite comics. We know you love it. We know you're all here for it. It's all everybody's favorite thing. It's all they can talk about on Wednesdays is what new number ones are dropping. We're there with you, so we really get it. And you know, there was a lot of stuff this week where I don't know, you know, you burn off albums that suck in January, you burn off movies that suck in February, you burn off TV shows that suck in May. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like December is the slosh pile of comics.
Well, you know, we're at the year's end. What's really a bummer is that I wish this was just more time for silly Christmas stuff. Spider-Man actually had a perfectly fun Christmas issue this week, which Ultimate Spider-Man, I should say, which is not what we're talking about, but and that's like part of the problem is like I didn't want to push for doing Spider-Man this week because there really wasn't much else Christmassy out, and it's not like, you know, we did a Christmas episode, we did a Christmas comics episode, and Marvel didn't have that much. DC had a bunch, but still not really a ton, and I just kind of I wish that this were more like it had a little bit more of the vibe of the end of the school year, where, you know, you ramp up in those in that last week or two to do your exams and get everything in, and then you have that glorious time where you've got nothing until after the new year, and then we'll pick it back up again then. And with comics, it doesn't seem like it just seems like shoving stuff out the door without much enthusiasm.
And there's like a nuance to building a projected line, right? Like, we just did the Graysverse, had a big talk about it all over the show. We did every minute of the Grey's Anatomy universe with the exception of the web shows, the web series, which I want to go back and do the webisodes. But we did this, you know, Kevo and I watched a full year of Grey's Anatomy. This year we watched the full thing of Grey's Anatomy. And we just did Party of Five, which turns out there's like a lot of connections between the two shows. Like major Grey's writer Krista Vernoff got her start on Time of Your Life, or one of her starts on Time of Your Life, the Party of Five spinoff. Anyway, I bring this up because like watching even just like Private Practice and Grey's not really interact but coexist is a better picture than watching the same thing from Party of Five and Time of Your Life, which don't really do a lot to acknowledge each other in any meaningful way. And like reading these books, I kind of can't help but think about how All In does a better job balancing all of the things of All In. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure I can figure out how Bloodhaven figures out into all of this if I had to, right? That's for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar, that's where Nightwing hangs, right? So when I think about what Marvel's doing, I cannot figure out how this Doctor Strange is the same Doctor Strange in any book, the one that showed up in Hellverine. And even then, this does not feel like the Akihiro I've read for the last couple of years.
I feel two ways about it. Doctor Strange is a weird one because, you know, he, like, Marvel will go through some motions. Doctor Strange specifically says, I'm no longer Sorcerer Supreme. I don't know if I can help you. But it feels like that's on a list of must mentions on a board when you apply to use a character, and not like a holistic, how do we integrate this into the universe? With Akihiro, it's kind of a different problem where Percy just wants to use characters the way he wants to use them. Like, I mean, the argument goes further back than this. Percy's Wolverine is not the Wolverine from the rest of Krakoa. His X-Force and X-Men and Wolverine, Logan is who he wants him to be, who Percy wants him to be, and it's very different from who everybody else wants him to be. So like it is a twofold problem for Marvel there.
And I feel like the problem is only getting foldsier because like I have a lot of opinions about how the New Gods didn't do a lot for me this week. I liked things about Challengers of the Unknown, but I feel like that book was really just for like pretty art. Like I have opinions on DC too, but one of the things that I really felt about the Marvel books that I read this week, and I read more than just the two we're going to cover, but one of the things that I really felt was like the problem is Akihiro was never really a part of the Percy Wolverine ecosystem. He was only ever peripherally a part of that ecosystem. So then when I'm looking and I see, you know, it's this this take on this character that sort of ignores all of the great takes that we've had in the last couple of years, the thing I'm realizing is it's like he was told you can't keep using Wolverine, so use the closest thing.
Yeah, I kind of see that. And you know, he got to do Hellverine with Wolverine. He got to do this Ghost Rider, you know, Johnny Blaze, Logan crossover, which is, it started way before that in, it's, I think issue 7, his issue 7 of Wolverine, that the motorcycle race. We loved that. We thought that was really cute and fun. So like, it's not, I'm not against any of this in theory, but Percy clearly had more thoughts on Ghost Rider. And yeah, I hear what you're saying insofar as like, it does feel a little bit like he was like, well, I like these things that I came up with. I want to keep doing them. And they were like, okay, well, you can't have Johnny Blaze or the primary Ghost Rider storylines, but you can have your thing that you created. You can't have Logan, but the son that you mutilated to the point where like nobody else could figure out a way to resurrect him because we lost resurrection. You can have him, which isn't even the worst pitch in the world to me. Like, recycle, people, reuse, reduce, reuse, compost, go for it.
I mean, I'm all for the over proliferation of Wolverine. This is him. He's all covered. I've ruined him. I can't get the string. The string.
I was gonna say, it's like partially folded. Oh, I see him now. Yeah, there he is. Okay. Yeah,
so like,
we love it.
And like, I'm like, this is literally a neon Wolverine hoodie. I'm not here for it to be neon. I'm not here for it to be like Wolverine purism. But
yeah, as you said, like, it's not. He wasn't really. He showed up kind of peripherally in Percy's Wolverine stuff, and it's just a really different character than the guy in Marauders. And you know, it's not coming up here because there's not really time for it, which is fine, but like, Akihiro is a very pansexual character, and Hellverine is not, and it's just kind of, it's not that he needs to be very sexual and like delve into his sexuality at all times, but when you start stripping away all the things that other people do with a character, I don't know that it's all, you know, you really hit a point of diminishing returns. And this is all kind of a bummer because I love when Percy is a horror writer, and this book had some of his best horror scripting, and then some of the best horror art. Like the decomposing woman with like the crab on her face and everything. Just some really, like, for a genre, for a medium that can never do jump scares or like a lot of the stuff that makes people get into horror, Percy is really good at doing it in comics. Like, he really is good at pulling the conventions of the genre into his stories. That is always a delight to me. It's all of the other stuff that gets a little bit questionable. And, you know, I like I said, compost, I don't know what we were going to do with Akihiro anyway. And I'm sort of glad that he's not getting dragged into the stuff about From the Ashes that I'm not really loving. But, you know, I might not have hated for Erica Schultz to get to use Akihiro instead.
I had the same reaction when I realized, oh wow, okay, Akihiro really isn't in the X-Men right now. And then when we read TVA #1, And I just want to say real quick, I had the best week in the universe. I got to spend it with that guy. So we did a bunch of hanging out and talked about some stuff going on. And he got me all set up with my gaming fixes because I am evidently really bad at intuiting things. And so, one of the things is that we actually didn't talk about comics this whole time, really. We peripherally discussed it, but it's like we literally talk about comics and Drag Race 24/7. And so when we're together, one of the things is like we kind of get to do the other things that we enjoy. And so he was there as I cried as I downloaded Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and it was one of those things where like I was so excited to talk about Intergrade and to talk about Rivals that I kind of didn't even think about the things that I maybe wanted to talk about otherwise, like this big announcement of Spider-Verse versus Venomverse. This is the first time you and I are only a part of one half of something. Like we'll like 3/4 of something like Devil's Reign, or we'll be reading 1/4 of something like Gang War and then read the rest anyway. But this is the first fucking time I can think of where I've looked at Venomverse, Venom. Like I don't know, and like I've been thinking about how like Tom Hardy's Venom performance is basically just malevolent, but funny, and like and now he's the King in Black. So, for
those who don't know, Malevolent is a fictional audio drama horror podcast that we both really love, and it's done by this guy named Harlan Guthrie, who on his podcast does all of the voices, which we were even talking about is a lot, but primarily he voices the two main characters, and is similar to Eddie Brock and Venom, where they are basically sharing one body space, and Eddie wears Venom like a suit, but they talk to each other and they communicate. In Malevolent, a chthonic dark god, a Cthulhu Mythos dark god, is riding around in this man's body. The man cannot see through his own eyes, but this chthonic god can see through his eyes. So the whole podcast is them talking to each other, and this dark god having to lead this guy, basically like literally be like, okay, turn left, walk this way. We are in a room full of bodies. We are in a bad place right now. And they just like kind of communicate back and forth. And it really is very similar to Venom. I really didn't think about that, but it's also very funny because it has that similar thing where like one of them is just a Joe everyman and the other one has this very like cosmic horror way of speaking. Great combo.
Well, and like it's something where I was, it's tough because like I do struggle with mental illness like a lot of human beings that are not dead. And so because the only reason they don't struggle with it is because they no longer struggle with anything but the dirt. And so I struggle with always being my best self. And so like yesterday, I had like a full-on meltdown because like TK helped me understand that I maybe wasn't playing all of my games to the best of my ability. And I kind of got like stroppy and had to say, nope, that is not the person I want to be. I'm kind of being a fanboy about it. If it's not the way I like it, it doesn't work. And I specifically remember when Heroes came out, the Tim Kring show, right? That was Tim Kring, right? When that debuted, and right, because Kripke is Supernatural, Kring is Heroes, right? So and I thought about Kring using so much of my favorite stuff of all time, whether it was using like, because like a nuclear man who is irradiating and killing his family is literally the plot of the 4th issue of Squadron Supreme. The idea of a young immortal woman who can't be destroyed, and that is literally her burden for her to save the world. I mean, literally, it's Buffy. She's a blonde cheerleader who keeps being led by a strange man from another culture, bringing her closer and closer to her death at the end of the first season. Save the cheerleader, save the world. I'm sorry, I think you mean Chosen Prophecy Girl.
The man watching over her and leading her into danger is wearing horn-rimmed glasses and is a father figure.
I was talking about Hero. But you're,
I meant for her Buffy stuff, yeah.
Yeah, no, but you meant horn-rimmed glasses, man. Yeah, and her actual fucking father. So, like, you know, I feel like when that came out, I was such an ugly person about it. I made it hard for people who enjoyed it to enjoy it because I was so mad at the things that inspired me that I felt like we're getting no love. I'm really here to say, comics, you can go choke on the Tumblr dick you came in on, because you have absolutely, at this point, I mean, there are times that I open an issue of Uncanny X-Men and I'm like, oh my God, this is the plot of Super Hulock. And I sometimes think about the fact that we don't always see where those elements come in. Like, I didn't notice the Malevolent Venom connection because I wasn't, you know, smart enough to understand Malevolent. I can see where things like Magnus Archives, another excellent audio drama fiction podcast we love, Magnus Archives and its ilk, borrow from things like House of Mystery. But this is really a point, like TVA in particular was kind of a breaking point for me where you're just borrowing from other things. But Hellverine had so many notes of heavily borrowing. I even feel like things like Ultimate Spider-Man heavily borrow from other media that updates the idea of a child. I'm not trying to say that Ultimate Spider-Man is just, to use another one, elementary, but there is something about the strength of Joan Watson, one of the best interpretations I've ever seen of Watson, that runs through the same strength that they're putting into MJ. And I just feel like comics is at the point where comics have done so many stories, they're just stealing left and right in the best possible way. And good for them. It's the bazaar. You just got to grab and run.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because reading Ultimate Spider-Man today, I was really thinking about how the conversation between Mary Jane and her sister borrows so much from TV conventions of tense relationships between primetime, maybe soap opera, but like maybe a more lighthearted one, maybe even comedy. I'm trying to, not quite a 90210 or a Melrose Place, but the fact that it's this kind of comedic, okay, I'm sorry too, or like, we can work this out if you apologize for what you did. And like that moment where they just have that like really cold back and forth, but it's like kind of funny, is that is a script page from TV, from like 8 different television shows that was just
Mallory having a conversation with I don't know, it's Mallory having a conversation with
West Wing Mallory.
Yeah, with Abby.
Yes.
And the two of them are just talking about how hard it is to exist in this ecosystem of men who can't see anything but themselves.
Mallory's, I would say like it could be a conversation between like CJ and Mandy in the first season, but never again, or like CJ and Ainsley, where it's West Wing is a great example, because West Wing is very dramatic, but also has moments of humor. So yeah, it really is cribbed from something like that. Perfect primetime soap example. And you know, exactly as you said, in a really good way. And
like in a sexy way, not to be weird, but like so Somebody Loves Me very much and made sure that if I was going to watch Party of Five, I would watch every single second of it. And one of the things that I am lucky enough to get to watch is there was a 100th episode look back, and they worked so hard to talk about sexualizing Lacey Chabert, who herself basically is like, yeah, the people that watch this show and comment on my breasts are perverts. And like, she is so good about it, dude. She is like really a queen. Kevo, please weigh in.
This was 1998, season 5, post Lost in Space Lacey Chabert specifically. That's where she was. This was post voice of Anastasia in the animated movie. So this was like, they were really, and then they pushed even harder after this special, which was really intense. But yeah, they really pushed for, she's a teenager, guys. We're sorry that she's 3 feet tall.
And it gets hard to talk about things that can feel really dicey, like talking about the sexuality of an 18-year-old woman as she is coming into herself. And I feel like one of the things that gave people like in the 90s, Lacey Chabert and Nev Campbell, but overall, you know, people like Sabrina Carpenter, who is, I think, literally the modern definition of sex kitten Marilyn Monroe type. It's that you were able to control it as the person living in it. These comic women don't have that. So when they do get the balance of sexiness and reality that the women on West Wing, who frankly were always sensual but not always the most beautiful women in the world, they were always pretty, but like, you know, they weren't casting Jennifer Aniston on West Wing. I feel like comics always have the prettiest version of the prettiest woman. So when they do manage to get the dynamic between women right, and I'm not thinking to myself, wow, you were just one fucking pair of panties away from drawing this as a slumber party, weren't you? It is really, really nice. And I feel like the sexiness that Ultimate Spider-Man in particular is capturing is that same 90s sexiness.
I really hear what you're saying. And I'm also trying to think about, like, when I think about the other books that we're discussing this week, like, as I said before, like, Percy pulls from the genre conventions of horror in a way that it's like you kind of have to, or is it really, you know, is it a horror piece? He also borrows a lot from himself. This is his Ghost Rider that turned into his Hellverine, that turned into his, you know, interpretation of how he sees Akihiro. And TVA is borrowing from the show that it is maybe a sequel to. I'm sort of confused about that. I don't know how we're ever going to figure that out. But also from so many things that, like, and this is the one where I get a little bit shaky. Even though I think I liked TVA more than you did, my one thing is like, this is just Exiles. And Exiles.
Well, and then deeper. And then deeper.
Go deeper.
So, okay. Then let's just start on TVA for a minute.
Well, we are. Yeah.
I loved it. I really thought it was a lot of fun. I gave it an A-, and then I thought about it. And I asked myself, what from this book did I get from this book? And what from this book did I get from being asked to interpolate my understanding of these characters, these ideas, and these multiversal concepts from other places? It's not that I'm unwilling to pull the things I love from other places. Like, just bringing it up again because it really bothered me. I discovered today that Logitech does not label the keys left shift and right shift. They label the keys shift and right shift. So let's say you got a cool new mouse and you need to program the commands and you keep looking for left shift. Well, fuck yourself. And so I was asked to interpolate my knowledge of what might happen. Okay, drop the adjective. It's just shift. I figured it out. I felt proud. I was able to do that because I was able to project the difference into my own mind. Oh, okay. Well, if it's not left shift, then it's just got to be shift. There's no center shift key. But who is Mobius? Who are the other characters of TVA that are being imported for me from a TV show where, once again, the agency of the performer escalates and elevates the quality? It's the thing that made Lacey Chabert not a manga drawing of a teen girl, and yet also made her someone that we look to protect and make sure that never happened. These characters in TVA, when I realized that I was just projecting that I find the men all very attractive, and it's not hard for me to come up with a cute blonde Wolverine if I try hard enough, I was kind of left enjoying an issue that gave me nothing.
It definitely did not give a lot. It really wanted to hedge its bets on whether this was a sequel to the show or if this is immediately split off from the show, mirrors it perfectly, but is in the comic universe. And these are actually tough things for transmedia companies of serial storytelling endeavors to figure out. But it's one of the things that bothers me is like a lot of times it feels like Marvel plays it so fast and loose when they have this like incredibly precious resource on their hands. I
Agreed.
love the idea that this is the sequel to the show, and that if they ever want to show the TVA on screen again, they have to acknowledge that B-15 somewhere is talking to a Spider-Gwen, a Remy LeBeau, and Jimmy Hudson. But I don't know that we'll ever get that.
Well, first of all, Jimmy Hudson. Okay. Whoever said we didn't have John Constantine as Wolverine, so let's just do it real quick.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
That scratched an itch.
well, no, he's the one from Ultimates, from the Ultimate Universe.
Wait, like the original Ultimate Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
got-
I definitely dropped out by this time.
Yeah, so in the original Ultimate Universe, he's raised by the Hudsons, obviously, but he is Wolverine's son. He got imported over here. He hung out with them for a while during like when the Teen 05 got.
Oh, this is
symbiotes and
that
everything.
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
From the World Tour stuff?
I think.
Like
I
the
mean,
color era stuff.
That's what I think. I mean,
Wow, I don't understand. I don't understand. Jane Foster isn't in a single book right now,
yeah.
but this
I know.
blonde faggot is running around in more things than a Sabrina Carpenter ex-boyfriend.
Well, he hasn't been in anything in a really long time, and people kept complaining about it, which to me is insane. Like, it's so weird how often I see people being like, "And where is that great character, Jimmy Hudson?" No, we have Akihiro. We don't need this guy. But it is that thing that they do where, like, I don't know that we've ever definitively said what happened to the future daughter of Storm that had the Panther. Remember her?
Yeah, or oh my god, there's this young, really brilliant creator, and I really love the way he does appendages. Rob Liefeld created Major X, the child of Cable and Storm. Where's he?
No, he's in a book that came out like this week or last week. One of the stupid Deadpool team up, I think it. Yeah.
Oh no, that's by Rob Liefeld.
Yes. Yeah. Nobody. No self-respecting other person at that company is ever going to use that character.
No,
but for some,
I feel like sometimes people are like, you don't have 1,000 books and $1 billion to your name, so you don't get to attack Rob Liefeld. And I'm like, the guy literally says some human beings don't get to live.
yeah,
I get to attack Rob Liefeld.
I'm fine attacking Rob Liefeld. What's really fun, like this is, I want to work my way up the ladder so I can get there and be like, the only character I want is Major X. And he just gets up there and goes, I want to start doing drag.
Yeah, I swear to God, the only reason I'm ever on time for this show is so that if other people are late, I can say, well, I was here. And that's the whole reason I want to get hired at Marvel. Just so I can, I mean this with, hey, Anthony, I mean this with love. I'm going to kill this kid Juggernaut and replace him with J2. I'm not even going to be nice about it.
Nope.
He is going to literally get eaten by reality monsters that eviscerate creatures that shouldn't exist.
That's a whole other thing. That's just because we have a better thing already that we should have gotten to do. I'm punishing Rob Liefeld.
Existed.
Yes, exactly. And we had a plan. Let us do our thing. It's a different thing with Rob Liefeld. I'm going to punish Rob Liefeld. I'm working my way up the ladder. I don't have a good pitch for Major X. I just want to piss off Rob Liefeld for creating that character and getting books that subject us to him.
And he's going to change his name to Minor Exy.
Exactly.
He's just a cute little thing.
But yeah, that's Jimmy Hudson. I was wondering if we were supposed to assume that was Channing Tatum Gambit. I don't think it is, but
okay, can I tell you the only Gambit I'm here for?
Yeah.
A Gambit who is exactly Gambit, but everything's green. So instead of being Gambit, it's that original miscolored issue.
Oh, yeah. I aesthetically, I love that.
For people who don't realize this, I think Gambit debuts in Uncanny 267.
Yeah,
or no, 266, right? 265. And when he debuts in a fill-in issue, so he was already created, already designed. But his first issue has incorrect coloring, so his energy signature is green. That's a cool Gambit. That's a cool take on Gambit. Gambit with a 5 o'clock shadow and possibly some sexual hangups about Rogue. That's just showing me a hot older bottom. You've accomplished nothing.
Yeah, I didn't really care about that. Spider-Gwen was weird because they're like, she's here for some really important reasons. Go back and read her entire series.
And the answer is no.
Well, and that's the thing is like, am I going, like, is that really what you want to do with your time? Is tell me to go back and read something else? I feel like it also then brings us into the TVA of all things would have to reckon with the fact that the Spider-Verse is multiversally mechanically something that has to be relevant to the TVA. They can't be dealing with, sacred timelines, and then also separately there is the Spider-Verse. Like,
it's the genius of Stephanie Williams, I believe, writing Phoenix.
Yeah,
because there's
Phillips.
two Stephanies. Phillips, thank you. There's two Stephanies.
I know. I flip them all the time. Yeah,
and neither one of them gets enough work. Neither one of them gets enough respect. But Stephanie Williams having Gore and
Phillips.
I kill all gods. Stephanie Phillips being like, I kill all gods. Gore go after Phoenix. There's a certain point where if you keep overlooking things like your point, Spider-Verse, connecting to the idea of TVA, you're doing a disservice to the integrity of the universe.
Yeah, and it's just, Gwen especially is such an important part of Spider-Verse stuff that to just have her there being like, oh yeah, I'm just hanging out with you guys, when she's literally part of another group that does the same thing but just for spider-related crimes. I feel like it's very difficult for me, even liking the book, sitting there being like, okay, but Gwen, if Gwen is there, like, how is Obi not like, tell me everything about the Spider-Verse, tell me everything about Webweaver or Orb Weaver, tell me everything about the Web of Life and Destiny, what's going on with that sword, who's Julia Carpenter, like that. How is that not the book? Spider-Verse TVA, I would have made that book first, and like I would have had some fun being like, I would have had fun theorizing what the Spider-Verse means to the grander idea of the multiverse, because it has to, the fact that the Web of Life and Destiny exists and all spider people and spider totems are connected to it has to be relevant to the fact that there is a multiverse complete, like where Earth 982 exists, and where all the various realities that we talk about exist, what the Captain's Britain deal with. It's very complicated, and I get lost in that, and maybe that's just me overthinking as a nerd, but I don't know, it really kept ringing in my head for this book that is otherwise perfectly cute and fine, and then Peggy Carter's in it too, so it's just a bunch of like people from recognizable offshoot dimensions that you can plausibly say, yeah, they all showed up at the Nexus of Realities, and then they just do a little adventure. Fine.
Hold on. Actual pause. No, that's what makes Exiles so good.
Well, yes, that was my original point.
Makes me angry that I didn't get more of the person they're based on, down to the fact that, I, like many people, thought that, if you don't know me, my absolute favorite power in the entire universe is teleportation. There is no superpower cooler in this universe than teleportation. And if you want the best version of teleportation, it is the 93 remake of The Tomorrow People. Best version of teleportation ever. Anyway. Oh, no. Hub from Excalibur Volume 3 is also deeply up there for me. And so, like, I think when you create a character who can teleport, you are creating something so big, so cool, so amazing, so overwhelming that it makes me long for more. It makes me want to know where that person's been, because they can have been anywhere. And when Exiles came out, And it was all of these people who were the kind of people that made me long for more of the original, down to Blink, a teleporter, the coolest, bitchiest teleporter ever, hanging with the coolest group of kids ever, one of whom can turn into a bird. Ask Husk about that later. And you get them then ultimately being able to teleport through time using the Talus, the TARDIS. It's literally just Doctor Who. And you get this moment where it's so cool because I'm so engaged by Morph, this idea of what if I could be anybody and was a wisecracking dumbass. You get Nocturne, who is one of the top 3 sexiest comic book characters ever drawn. Ever. I don't care what you say. She's literally... blue people are always sexier in comics than white people. Sorry about it. So automatically Nocturne has an advantage over her, over her like Scarlet Witch-esque comparison. But the thing that I think about is early Exiles, even that first replacement era by Austin of all people, is so filled with people like Magic, like MJ as Spider-Man, where I want to see more. There is nobody in this TVA. Oh, okay. An edgy Gambit. Okay, fine. Sure. All right. Chase Crawford as Wolverine. Oh, okay. A nondescript version of the only real Spider-Gwen. Why do I care? Exiles made this exciting. TVA makes it rote. By the time you make it rote, it's already fine. It's good. I'm not annoyed by it, but it's not the exciting engagement that brought me to the table in the first place on either level, whether it's Loki, the TVA under Byrne, or Exiles under Winnick.
And, even we can go more, because I agree with everything you're saying, and that's what I want. But I'll be generous and say we can go with something safer, more recent. We got more out of multiversal stuff from Hickman's Secret Wars, from Battle World, and this idea of pulling from the most iconic Marvel universes, and making those characters interact and putting them together and shutting down the whole Marvel universe to do it. Ostensibly all those universes are still out there, and to go with just something so milquetoast. I shouldn't even say milquetoast, that's the wrong word, but so safe and such a sure thing, and to take no risks, and also to not look outside of a very narrow track of understanding of multiversal characters. Again, there's no Captain Britain here. It would be really cool if somebody was, and I guess this could be Gambit, but I doubt it. It would be really cool if one of them was from this current Ultimate Universe and was like, I got pulled out of a really crazy situation in my world.
How great would it be if it was somebody that they're not going to have the balls to use in this Ultimate Universe?
Yes.
Like, what if it was like Ultimate Sunspot? Like, instead of Ultimate Gambit, or not Ultimate Gambit, but X-Men 97, Bo DeMeo stand-in Gambit. Let's call him Bow Catch-Up.
I mean, there's just a lot they could have done, rather than going, who are the really safe crowd pleasers? But pull some of those guys in, sure, absolutely. Peggy Carter, sure. Spider-Gwen, sure. Gambit is...
We've come so far that you're like, you as a person that I think has a great finger on the pulse of fandom can comfortably say Peggy Carter is a fan favorite to be pulled in to make people know their heroes are here. What a great place we've come to in a post-Endgame universe.
Yeah, I mean, people loved the way we got Captain Carter from What If to Multiverse of Madness to, I mean, she's a crowd pleaser. I get it. And Haley Atwell's fantastic. Great. Definitely have her there. Spider-Gwen, you feel like she's recognizable from the movies. Totally. Gambit is the person where I'm like, and Jimmy Hudson too, even, where I'm like, maybe we use these for something a little wilder, and something that's going to make people think a little bit more, and something that really acknowledges how Marvel was already doing this for a really long time. The TVA didn't shake things up by making the MCU multiversal. It was reflective of simplifying something that was so complex and interesting and gave so many storytelling possibilities so that it could be consumable for the lowest common denominator, which is fine. That's what all movies and TV are. That's what they're supposed to be for the most part, especially blockbuster films. That's fine. But we just moved this back to comics, so now we ought to expand again. And we just didn't do that at all. What do you got, Kevo?
The MCU's TVA is to the multiverse concept and introducing it to the audience as Agent Coulson is in the original films as an audience stand-in and introduction. In a way.
You know, I really hear what you're talking about, because Coulson was originally just sort of meant to be a vehicle by which, he was meant to be a vehicle by which the Marvel Universe could operate without us having to think about it too much. But so many people, like TK, I said it to you, I didn't, so sorry. The trailer for Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate dropped today.
Oh, wow.
And so we're getting a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. And I'm very excited. And the thing it made me think about was how this is so evolved from where we came from. Honestly, if you had asked me when I was a kid who would have been the ultimate villain in a Marvel versus sort of like massive film, it would have been Doctor Doom. If you had asked me who would have starred in Marvelverse, the movie, it would have been Doctor Doom. And then Thanos. And I was like, Kevo was with me at the end of Avengers saying, I hate this. Thanos is the worst villain in the universe. What group of dumb people give a shit about Thanos? I will literally never see an Avengers movie starring Thanos. I hate this.
It's gonna be Thanos. I'm gonna be so mad until the end of all of this. And you were.
Actually, like, literally sitting in Infinity War going, I hate that he's winning.
It was
I hate
worse
him
than you imagined.
Oh my God.
Especially now after the fact that we know who Death is and could have been, you're probably even more mad about how everything with Endgame shook out because you talked so much about Death and how great she was. So yeah, you really said all of these things 12 years ago.
It's on podcast. Oh God. And so I hate Thanos. I have always hated Thanos. Like, if you are asking me top 5 worst, most overrated villains in all of fiction, Thanos is number 2. Truly, I, bar none, really hate this character. And so for me, as somebody who felt that way at the time, to now be in a world where it kind of feels like, wait a minute, are you telling me that Doctor Doom is the villain succeeding Thanos? Are you really telling me that the shape of the Marvel Universe has changed so dramatically? You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting was, for a solid decade, as a result of the MC unification of comics, every brief splash had one purple fucking finger in it, like some kind of weird dick hanging in the background of the page to let you know Thanos had his finger on the situation. TVA had that brilliant moment of the Doom cloak, which I kind of think it's going to be like somebody else, but it was clearly meant to make us think the Doom cloak. And when I read Hellverine, all of those flashes of Mephisto, who clearly hasn't become anything significant, though Sacha Baron Cohen, one of the most unbelievable things about any movie musical in the last 20 years, getting to play this character could truly... if Mephisto did, and I did it my way style, Frank Sinatra, full 5-minute number in the middle of an episode of Ironheart, I would literally think it deserved an Emmy. It would be Dan Stevens singing Behind Blue Eyes to me. it would be religion. And so like to see TVA so readily summon the ideas that I'd felt passionately 10 and 15 years ago. This is a complicated issue because at the same time, I've hoped for things like this from Ghost Rider. TK, you are clearly the bigger Ghost Rider fan than me now. But when this whole thing started, I came to you and was like, I know you probably think this is just dumb 90s stuff, but like, this canon is magic. This canon is powerful. And admittedly, something I'd always hoped that you would come to love as much as I did, but you have far too much, let's go with integrity and masculinity. You have never really fully given over to Frank. But this run by Jason Aaron on The Punisher was so good, so excellent. There are moments in the Ennis stuff that I've described to you where you're like, okay, that is cool. It is weird that it's a trans person who has machine guns killing everybody in the name of their transness. I hate that, but there are the occasional cool idea. It's interesting that Punisher could never get outside of that, but it seems like Ghost Rider has and has just become like a Wolverine identity. And TVA got outside of itself, but to become exiles. And I sort of feel like 15 years ago, I didn't know you. I didn't know who you were or what you were looking for from comics. But, I'm giving this week at Marvel kind of like a B- average, but the best of it is an A- and the worst of it is a C-. And I would love to know where you're sitting as somebody who has been a Marvel fan literally longer than me, but as somebody who watched all of this grow from the ground to the point where MC unification really is the name of the game.
I think you're probably in the right ballpark for a grade, probably in the B- range. There's some great stuff came out this week that we didn't talk about, which I'm actually happy about. I am telling you right now, we need to do Daredevil catch up, and the next issue comes out January 1st. So I think sometime around then we should do some Daredevil catch up. Not even like, and it's not even because Daredevil was great, but just because it has really
implications.
Yeah, it has implications. It's turned its next corner. There's interesting stuff there. Psylocke was really sexy and cute and cool and funny, and Alyssa Wong just is managing to kill it. But again, then the problem there becomes like, what does this have to do with Raid on Grey Malkin?
Well, and I don't think they are long for this universe. I don't think that unless Marvel says, oh, I'm sorry, Alyssa, person who is a New York Times best-selling novelist, unless they start to say, hey, Alyssa, do you want to write Avengers? I don't think there's any reason for them to stay.
I, for their sake, hope they are being treated well wherever they are. And if that doesn't, if that ends up being with Marvel, great. Even if I don't love the books they are assigned, I'll love them more if I know that they pitched them and that's what they wanted to work on. Kind of feels like a really perfect one. But I agree. Like I have been saying for a while now, I would like Alyssa on the big names. Avengers is a great example. I love that they were on Deadpool for a while. It's their Deadpool really set the standard to me for a tone for that character for the future that unfortunately I don't feel like a lot of people have really lived up to. And especially like as fun as the Ryan Reynolds movie was, I feel like it set us back a little bit from moving away from the chimichanga tone of things. And that was the just amazing work that Alyssa did that I just felt like really got beaten down a little bit. But anyway, a bunch of cool stuff came out this week. TVA, I'm paying attention. And Hellverine, I'm still going along with it because Marvel just doesn't release enough horror books. The last Blood Hunters also came out this week, which was fine. It's just Marvel doesn't release enough horror. So and Percy is a great horror writer. So there's stuff there that I'm pleased about. But you're about right in the B- range with highs and lows to get us to that average. And you know, I'm still in for the ride.
Where I'm not really in for the ride is I feel like I am not in for whatever this X-Men crossover they announced this week is. X-Manhunt. I have not been this disengaged from an event since I found out that the Olympic Games were going to be every 2 years. I don't care. I think that Gail Simone could personally, single-handedly editor-in-chief the Marvel Universe into its greatest era. But with editor-in-chiefs and editors breathing down her neck, I don't think she can do a whole lot. I think she's doing some great character work, but I do not believe even her uncanny can lead us into any sort of golden age. And my God, I am hoping for new Krakoa in 2027.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't care about X-Manhunt. It was something I was really thinking about today. I pulled up Alex Packnadell's Sentinels, and I really like Alex Packnadell. And there's a lot that I would love to see him write. I'm just not really enjoying this book, and I just feel, I find myself, and this is something we've talked about before, I find myself feeling bad that I don't want to buy books that I don't like and not supporting authors that I do, but I can't keep feeling bad that I don't like any of this stuff, and I can't keep feeling bad that I don't want to buy it, that I don't want to read it. It's your job to make me want to read it, and you haven't done that. And I guess like the other side of it is that I guess there are people out there who do, but I don't know, it just felt like during Krakoa there was a lot of stuff that you could say, like from a critiquing art perspective, it was maybe not of the best quality, but I still always wanted to read it, and I found my people to talk about it with in fandom every week. Every week there was somebody to talk about the books with in an enthusiastic way, where we were really enjoying something, where we wanted to see more, and I don't see that anymore. I'm connected to all those same people, but I don't see anybody having the same conversations, and not with the same energy. And I feel bad that there are these books that I just don't want to pick up or read, but that's just where it is. That's where I'm at. I'm not. Sentinels is a really unfortunately good example of this. I get what they're going for. I'm not interested, and I feel I really have to keep reminding myself, like, you can't feel bad about the fact that they haven't won your attention over. But because the other side of that being, like, maybe there's this whole group of people that loves this book that you are just not a part of, and they can live their life and you can live yours. But it's not your job to sort of cheerlead these things that you don't like because you love the creators or the idea of them.
And you know what? I think that's even what the internet has given us, that we used to be beholden to letters pages, when letters pages was the only way you could possibly know what was going on editorially. Oh, they're saying it'll be canceled if we don't buy it. And then Wizard was like, oh, well, you guys can see that according to our sales charts, this book is selling poorly, so if you don't buy it, it's canceled. You know what? They're going to finish all 4 issues of Hellverine no matter what. They're going to finish all 4 issues of TVA no matter, or 5 issues of TVA no matter what. I actually think that we have some say in what goes on with Uncanny X-Men. We have some say in what goes on with some titles, and we are no longer kind of like blindly walking into, if I don't buy this, it's canceled, or if I buy this, it'll stay around. And I think Marvel needs to update its purchasing plans a little bit by that. I think DC already has, and that's where some of the DC oeuvre does not read so well weekly for me, or monthly for me, as it were. But the trades read well, Catching Up reads well, Omnis read well. I'd like to save Green Arrow, Green Lantern for the end. I've read that whole run that this supposedly slots into. It doesn't, but it was fun, so I'd like to save that. I read 2 books thinking you might hate one, and we might need to switch to the backup. I loved the book that I was concerned about, and I hated the backup. No, I didn't hate anything this week. I C- the backup. So, New Gods is something I know really well, and thought this issue relied. Rom V is a powerhouse, a literal storyteller in like the traditional sense. I can only imagine where these story ideas are coming from, and I'm so impressed. It was so far beyond my scope. The New Gods for me was 20 minutes that left me more frustrated than interested.
I don't know a ton about the New Gods, but I do know a thing or two, and it's that, Morrison being inspired by Kirby doing his thing with New Gods, Mr. Miracle showing up in Seven Soldiers, which is one of my favorites, Seven Soldiers itself having a lot of New Gods ties. And as soon as I saw Rom V's name on this, I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be a Rom V joint, and it's going to go one of two ways. I feel the same way about him that I do about Ewing. They're often talking about stuff that I'm really into.
Mewing?
But they are talking about it in a way that is now sort of sanitized or pushed through the pasta roller of the big two in a way that it just wasn't for Morrison up through Seven Soldiers. And when he was working at Vertigo, obviously we're totally fine, just do whatever, but like he managed to get a lot of these ideas, and
Just because it's spray paint doesn't make it graffiti.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. And it just kind of, and I see these people online. This started coming up with Resurrection of Magneto with Ewing, and like the tarot card inspiration art, which was beautiful and really cool, but it's like that's people thinking it's so deep when it's really just beautiful inspiration from these sources. What Moore and Morrison were doing was very different, and Romby is in that same thing where I'm just like, I love that you are pulling from these really high concept things. I see all this, all of this like gorgeous splash art that is sort of techno mystical, but I'm not blown away by any of it. I don't really, it's just, it's cool, it's fine, and I'm still interested to read this book. And Mr. Miracle is very hot, as is Orion, and the two of them together, that's whatever that size difference porn site is. There you go. There's your new people. But yeah, I wasn't blown away at all. And it was also just a lot of, which I was really disappointed it was this, because they haven't done New Gods in a while at DC, I think. And they haven't talked about them in a while, and some of us could use some updating, some refreshers, maybe fill in the knowledge that we don't have. So much of this book was a lot of, well, and the Thing, the Thing, he'll be there because he's the guy that's there when the thing happens.
Okay, but hold on. I want you to rewind yourself 2.3 years.
Sure.
This is Eternals #1 by Gillen.
Yeah.
You happen to know Eternals.
Yeah.
You thrived on that title.
Yeah.
But this is down to the exquisitely painted art. This is Eternals #1 by Gillen.
The only thing I will say about Eternals by Gillen is he gave himself a narrator in The Machine that would do a lot of, Druig has the power of persuasion. He is a very bad guy. He keeps doing bad guy things. Look, Druig is letting Thanos out of his prison. Don't let Thanos out of his...
Druig's so cute.
Okay, well, you can fight with the Machine about that. That's just like what he's saying. And
another Sabrina Carpenter boyfriend.
I hate him.
So.
Cheater man.
But yeah, I mean, like the really big difference, for one thing, the other big difference with Gillen was that he was not trying to pull from this psycho-mystical drama. Like, this is a religious text thing for the Eternals. Because the Eternals are just the Eternals. They are robots that get remade.
Well, I don't know about you,
yeah,
but I personally do think that the Eternals have I think the Eternals are zealous, where the Inhumans are incredulous, and the X-Men are ironic to the Inhumans, incestuous.
Fair. I mean, I hear that. And there are a lot of similarities. I think the big thing is where I thought Gillen succeeded a bit more was doing a lot of, and maybe to the point where for some people it didn't succeed because it was so expository, but a lot more exposition. I think it's great when an author is like, no, readers are smart, they'll get it, but you have to give them enough to get, and you really can't do that thing of being like, call upon the person for the reason. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. I haven't been here before. I don't know what you're talking about. I do need to look at the menu.
Pause. Yeah. One time on this show, Tori and I were so outrageously drunk we couldn't finish sentences. Once ever you have been playfully tipsy because you were pre-gaming for Pride.
Oh yeah.
I do not know if you remember this, but your catchphrase that day was, "Come on, say it. Say it," which has become, when you accidentally say something like that, one of my favorite things. But actually, it has become something that I've used as kind of like a way to not, because I'm a weed gummy king, or I'm just also dumb, and sometimes I just sort of expect everybody will follow me, and so like I think about that and how fun and how playful and how sweet you were, because you immediately assumed everybody could see that clear lane. That's really cute and sweet on a podcast with somebody you've watched 405 episodes of and that you love and you think is amazing. When that's the writer of a comic book, that is literally the definition of fiduciary responsibility when it comes to creative endeavors. And so like you doing that is, for me, like literally like a high point of you on air. Ram V kind of doing that, and to a lesser extent Kieran Gillen doing that in Eternals, is sort of exclusionary and makes me feel like I'm not cool enough to read the book.
Yeah, I hear that, and I mean, like us having fun doing that is like fun and funny for the show. I was also drunk and it was Pride. Like I'm not publishing a comic that is supposed to be a static thing. And
I hope that I made it clear that I thought you totally did.
You totally
excellent.
did. I mean, yeah, I'm not the least bit worried about it. It's more just like, even if I was spouting some bullshit, that is not meant to be the first episode of our show where we, that's not the primer for how we will then talk about comics for the rest of our shows going forward. This is your first issue of this book, and it has to, you can be playful if you want, but also this book wasn't playful at all. It was very, very serious and
gamingly dry.
Yeah. Fine, but like, if you're gonna do that, then you can't just be like, and all the things that everybody knows. Go forth with the information that you definitely have. It didn't quite work. It was really beautiful. Like I said, some really great character design. They all over the all-in line, they are asking a bit much of new people when it comes to understanding the cosmogony of DC. I don't know who Ataxia or Azuxas, who's weeping at the stars is. I just don't know. I haven't been here.
No, I'm not. That was not at you.
Oh.
Final Crisis. It's one of those things where, like, every now and then, like, oh yeah, the Living Tribunal gets referenced at Marvel. Oh, okay, I can point to Axis, or probably Judgment Day for Living Tribunal. But like, I'm like, Final Crisis might be the last time I can think of, but that's because my DC knowledge is about as spotty as a Rorschach test.
And I know the source because one time I was looking something up on DC fandom and it was like characters that were in this issue, God mentioned, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, God mentioned? And I clicked on it and they're like, this is the DC God. Sure, but like, I don't know a lot about how that concept and character flows into the DC cosmogony. And I can sort of make analogs about the idea that Darkseid might be like Phoenix, insofar as like Phoenix is actually a component of the universe and needs to be present. And it seems like the same is true of Darkseid, but it also just a lot of the time feels like he's just an ornery dude. So it's like a little tougher because the Phoenix, it's like, well, the Phoenix possessed Jean Grey, and so if it's crazy, it's actually that this gigantic cosmic thing that is an equation in the universe isn't supposed to be stuffed into this lady's body. And now we're doing different stuff, but like, that was the explanation you got a lot of the time.
If that is the only excuse I'm allowed to use when I do cocaine and make bad decisions, I feel like I am absolutely, it was a cosmic force stuffed into this lady's body. I feel like I'm going to lose that argument.
Well, we're all fighting our struggles. I don't really understand how Darkseid works. I don't understand why it's important that he be around. I mean, I kind of did, but like, I would like it. I need you to say it to me, DC. If you're going to want me all in, you need to, because I just think this is, for me, this is just Thanos left, which would be fine. If Thanos left the universe, that would be completely fine. This, to me, just Darkseid always feels to me like DC Thanos,
Hold on.
who has laser. What?
If Thanos was dead for a long time, you don't think Death would go looking for somebody to like love her?
That would be a great pitch for a story. I love that, actually. If Thanos hopped the universe one day, I would not be convinced if Marvel was like, shoot, this is a really big problem, the universe is destabilized, because he's just one of the Eternals. He's just a robot dude. So he is not, if the Phoenix left the universe, if the Phoenix completely like jumped out of the universe, then yeah, I would definitely believe it. And that's from what I know of Marvel, how the Marvel universe works. I don't quite know how the DC universe works, but as I have seen Darkseid used, he just feels like Thanos to me. So I need a little more. And the thing is, for people that are new to Marvel, if they did a storyline where Phoenix was cut out of the universe, I'd be like, you have to explain why this matters. Because for a lot of people, that's just Jean Grey and gold tights.
Wait, do you mean Exiles Volume 1, when the Phoenix was shunted off to the Malibu verse?
Sure.
And you guys know the way that Malibu is like an extension of the campus. So like, everybody who goes to Malibu just sort of goes to UCLA.
But you're talking about A, old stuff, B, one book, offshoot, all that. This is like DC. It's true. This is DC's flagship event for the entire thing. And I'm just sort of, I'm still in this thing where I'm like, okay, and this happened for Challengers too, where I'm like, you guys are saying a lot of stuff is happening, but you're not really explaining it very well for newbies. And I'm sticking in, like, you have me because I'm doing this show, and even I could be a little more forgiving and say, like, because my best friend and creative partner wants to talk about this stuff, like, I'm invested. But you can't expect that from the average reader. And I feel a little bit sad and feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. And this becomes a problem with Challengers, which I actually did enjoy, because Challengers is doing so much of the same thing of being like, it's the this thing and the this thing and the this thing. That I don't know what any of that stuff is. I actually have no idea who the Challengers themselves are, and the book never explains that either.
No.
Nope.
It says their names.
Yep,
and
it does tell me what their names are. Do they have powers?
No, they're people.
That's don't say it like it's a crazy thing to assume. I don't know.
No, they're just scientists. That's the whole point.
Okay.
They're just science. No, there's Teak. It's literally stated in the book. They are just scientists.
It's not literally stated in the book. Everybody, two of the guys were like, I have an Olympic medal. I also could have an Olympic medal, but it's not,
right. That's them.
It's never clear.
Personalities. You're doing great.
It's never clear if anybody has power, why they're, again, like I actually did not know Challengers of the Unknown was a property in the least. And they do a like 150 word explanation of what's going on at the start of the book, but it doesn't say anything about the Challengers at all.
Okay. I loved this book.
I really enjoyed it too. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I'm just saying, like, it is asking a lot of readers, and not everybody has my like. I'm in it. I'm trying to go have fun.
Okay, so I read. I forget what the amalgam Challengers of the Unknown Fantastic Four book was. I think it might have been Challengers of the Fantastic, even. Like, seriously, that on the nose. I read Challengers of the Fantastic when I was like 10 years old and thought it was like the greatest thing I'd ever read. So I really don't think I've ever read like a complete Challengers of the Unknown run or anything, but I've always read the DC Universe Encyclopedia of the characters, and it does not seem like there's a whole lot beside what is in this issue. I think one of the things that Christopher Cantwell is an expert at is managing to take the idea of a character and kind of like from concentrating it and I think that his Iron Man gives you the best ideas of Tony Stark, but you get those mostly from the movies. But his Challengers of the Unknown really highlighted what I loved about this team. An idea that exploration is what should be what you do. The X-Men used to look for new mutants. Now they just look to protect the mutants they have. The Challengers of the Unknown have never stopped challenging the unknown. The current unknown is Darkseid. This, for me, was a conceptual to the, like, tropes of it, A+. But, no, just to be clear, the actual book is just a B+, because I felt like it was 1 letter grade down, but it kind of sounds like TK, you thought this was kind of like 2 letter grades down.
No, like I said, I really enjoyed this. But like what you said probably would have been better distilled as half of that text monologue that is attributed to Mr. Terrific at the start of the book, because again, like I did not know this property existed. I did not know who these characters were. I didn't know this team existed at all, so I don't know what their purpose is. I don't know what they normally.
They just want to know the unknown.
No, listen. Sure, I get it. I don't know who they are, and the book never says that. Except the Fantastic Four all have powers, and they got them in a cosmic storm. They do. These are just.
I've been in a hurricane, but I didn't get powers.
Okay, you're gonna want to take that up with the hurricane.
Excuse me, Miss Sandy. Excuse me.
Yeah, there you go. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really cool. I like these characters. I mean, again, like I can pick up a lot of this stuff. And I really, the big thing I got is that they are inquisitors of mysteries, and not like detectives. They're doing scientific investigation. They're trying, when weird sci-fi stuff comes up in the DC universe, they're the ones that go investigate it. I totally got that. I just didn't. There was a lot of other stuff that I was unsure about, that I felt like, again, it's not even about you need to tell me everything. It's that you need to say, here's what you need to know to pick up this issue. And there was just missing some of that, which did not, for me, this was still like a B+. I really like their aesthetic, and I really like that there was a conversation about the aesthetic, and that like Superman was also kind of in on it. Again, I still, what I am laser focused on and love and bring up every week, because they won't shut up about it and they explain it in detail in like 8 different books, is what's going on at the Watchtower. After Absolute Power, we created the Watchtower because we all need a place to be together, but it's dangerous for us to all to be together, and there are things going on here. So the question is the deputy, or is the sheriff, who is solving the mysteries of things that are...
I don't want to correct you, TK. This is not the question. This is Mr. Terrific.
I don't know that was helpful at all.
It was being silly.
I don't get it. The question, the question book explains that the question is a lot, and this book tells you what these guys are on the station for, but it doesn't explain so much. Okay, bye. Yeah, I don't. It just there was some stuff that was definitely missing for me.
That was really how I felt about Green Lantern, Green Arrow. You know what? Like, TK, you did not grow up in the Claremont-Romita era. How do you feel about the Claremont-Romita era of Uncanny X-Men? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I didn't grow up in it. I mean, it's that's like important canon that once you decide you're going to be a fan of this stuff, you have to read.
Okay, I have literally read every issue of Green Lantern from the literal inception of the first Green Lantern through 1999. I have read literally every page that includes either Green Lantern or Green Arrow during their very famous... Well, you understand, but they don't. During their very famous political run. I just want to be really clear that the politics of that era come up maybe every 9th page at best. This book did more to understand the narrative of the politics that made that era famous than did any single issue of that era. That said, did the Green Lantern Green Arrow special actually have a plot? And that said, did it have a plot that involved Green Arrow? And also, for those of you who have read Teen Titans Noon Teen Titans #2, I don't want to be a canonista, but could this Slate appearance really go right before it? Okay, listen. If canon does not matter, this is an A-. Does canon matter? It's a C+, I guess. Good times. Everybody's happy, I guess. TK, how did you feel about the Green Lantern Green Arrow special?
This was fine for me. This was pure fun. I don't know anything about where this took place. I know very little about like Deathstroke. What how this could be canon for Deathstroke. I don't know anything about where this fell. I don't know anything about this period at all. So for me, this could just as easily have been a one-off kind of Elseworld story. And I'm aware that these two have a dynamic. I felt like I understood the dynamic that they have in this book. I don't know if that is the dynamic that they had. I don't know if this captured that. Because I know nothing about them. I actually had a really good time reading this. I think Green Arrow looks like a weird pervert and he creeps me out. Did
Dinah do anything on the 3 pages she legitimately appeared on?
No, that was another kind of disappointment. They talk about her a lot, but then they're like, call the woman to nurse you. But in general, I was like, as someone who knows nothing, this could have gone way worse. I had, this is one of those ones where I wouldn't say that I read it begrudgingly, or like I read it for you. But you picked this one, and I was actually a little bit pleased that you did, because I was like, I actually have never read one of these, a Green Lantern, Green Arrow story. I've never read one of these backstories. I actually don't really know their dynamic, so it'll be fun to learn. It'll be fun to have this experience one time. And nothing about that was bad at all. But I was left with a lot of like, given, because I didn't necessarily know that this was a retcon story, although I think that's I guess that's the point of World's Finest at this point. Or intercon, not retcon, but intercon.
That's the best term I've ever heard. Like intercon. Yeah, I guess this is a story you just didn't know existed between the pages of the issues you read.
Which is what the other World's Finest we read. So I assume that's like a lot of the point of the World's Finest books, which is great, totally cool, and good for a reader like me. As a one-off, everything really good. I will say the Lucas Meyer art, fantastic. Hal looks really, really hot, and for as creepy as I have often found Oliver Queen, I thought he looked very handsome a lot of the time. Here, Dinah looked gorgeous. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this. It's kind of like the opposite problem of what I'm talking about with Challengers and New Gods, which is like, when I read Challengers and New Gods internally, I'm like, I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know what to do with that. With this, I'm like, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm just baby. I'm just here. I'm just along for the ride. I have no idea if I say this is good, if somebody who knows the canon will be like, well, no, here's what's wrong with it in a lot of ways. Or if I say like, this is how these two guys are, like, this is what their relationship is like. If somebody will go, no, like, they've been written for hundreds of issues and it's established that they're actually like this. I don't know any of that stuff. So this could never kind of explain itself in that way. And I do think that can be a danger for people, because if you are intimidated by mountains of continuity, so you go to one of these stories, you run the risk of getting a writer who maybe doesn't understand the character dynamic, and then that's your first experience. And you never necessarily know if you got good intel. Muted.
It's why I came to a complete stop before you even said muted. It's why I wind up being so frustrated by stuff like X-Men First Class, where we're told this is the moments you missed. But, like, is it the moments you missed, or is it the moment that, like, fandom said had to have happened? This is the moment that fandom said did not happen, issue by issue. This maybe, I don't know that anybody was ever like, oh yeah, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Deathstroke, fought. For sure. Also, then Flash? Okay. How do you feel as I wrap this up with, I guess this was like a... Alright, final scores. Hellverine, C+, TVA, B-, New God, C+, Challengers of the Unknown, B. I'm going to give Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Flash, a B+ for the book itself, but kind of like a C+ for the fact that Flash was just as much an element of this issue as was Green Arrow. And I would love to know, as someone who does not care so much about that era, but cares about DC tapping into those eras carefully, how you feel about this book.
I would put it at a B. Nothing in it where I was like, oh my God, this is so good. But nothing in it where I was like, this is unreadable and stupid. I did have the same thing where I was like, oh, this is 2 books. Oh, Green Arrow's just gone and now Flash is here. Feels weird that we didn't ever say that this is going to happen. Feels bad to not put this poor guy on the cover. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I loved it. I had a perfectly good time with it. I think I'm at about a B as well for Challengers. Challengers would be an A if it didn't leave me feeling like I was lacking a bunch of information. I think I'm probably a B - C+ for New Gods.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I'm a little lower than you on New Gods, so I definitely get that.
Yeah.
You know, I had a great time this week in general. You brought something very interesting to the table to start this episode off, and it's not that I didn't touch on it, but I didn't know where to bring it in. The writer of the current Spirits of Vengeance series has recently been replaced as the potential writer of the Nova series. The Nova series having been potentially replaced as the first member of the Champions / Young Avengers, who was going to get a Disney Plus show for the last 4 years. I'm curious how it feels that all things Ghost Rider are coming from someone who does not feel like they have the most influence on the Marvel Universe. All things Hellverine, and I'm using the bunny ear quotation marks because, I do not think anyone is bringing this era up anytime soon, is coming from somebody who is so detached from Ghost Rider and X-Men, and yet we understand that the people shaping the MCU are the people ultimately shaping what we're going to be reading in the Marvel Comics universe.
Yeah, it's weird. So Sabir Pirzada wrote, and I think showran Moon Knight, but wrote a lot of Moon Knight, which not a wildly successful show for Marvel, but weirdly loved, and I liked it. I mean, I would have been happy to see them do more, but it wasn't doing Agatha all along numbers. It was very
but
expensive.
I love Gattaca.
Thank you. It was very expensive. It was not super talked about. But I thought it was very good, and Sabir Pirzada wrote it and has since done a bunch of Marvel comics. Sabir Pirzada is now writing Ghost Rider, but has been he was the heir apparent. He was the name that was being thrown around for writing Nova, and his name has been removed. It's now Ed Bernero, who showran Criminal Minds. And then, we've got Percy, who really tried to establish a whole new era of Ghost Rider and was big at Marvel in his own little corner, who has now really pulled away from a lot of that stuff and is doing this kind of Hellverines thing, which is great. What I can see is a bunch of puzzle pieces on the board. I do not at all see how they all fit together, and I know we're missing a bunch of them, which is the nature of being fans who comment and not, being executives who work at Marvel. We are always going to be missing pieces, and that has to be okay. But it is also our purview. When you leave these things out, it's totally fair for us to be like, okay, well, that thing is there and this thing is here, and that has to mean something. And so this is a case where really I'm like, I noticed that this stuff is happening. We noticed that this stuff is happening. I can't give you answers as to what it all means, but it's definitely significant.
If you want to know what it was like to be filming Dharma and Greg, you watch the Jenna Elfman podcast. But if you want to know what it's like to be a fan of Dharma and Greg, you watch Jennifer Love Hewitt's Dharma and Greg podcast, Loving Dharma, her one and only Spotify series, where she talks about what it meant to be a fan of Chuck Lorre's first major sitcom. And with all that said, I'm often thinking about the ways that the Marvel Universe is always evolving. I think about things like House of Harkness and how that is a book that we we've loved on air, but I don't know that House of Harkness is going to shape canon. I think it's ultimately going to shape the way people engage with canon. I don't know that this take on the New Gods is going to be the definitive take on the New Gods or, Challengers of the Unknown. But I do know that while, like I said earlier, this Hellverine won't be mentioned, this element of Akihiro's story is going to shape how we look at the Marvel Universe going forward. There's going to be, a generation of writers who say, oh, well, no, Wolverine is a Ghost Rider, isn't he? And they're never going to know how to look back. That said, Kevo, what was it for you today that was the most exciting? And I can't believe we didn't mention it, but the JLA joined the Challengers. The JLA, Clark, Bruce, Diana, they were running around as though they were just in the same purple suits as everybody else. What was it for you that stood out the most in listening to our content?
I mean, I had it prepared and you guys teed it up for me really well, so thank you. But it's exactly what you're saying already. The multiversity of it all. I never really got around to reading the Power Rangers comics that everyone was so crazy about. But I saw a lot of the things they did, and I thought they had a lot of really cool ideas. But there were a lot of things that definitely stood out. And one was... I don't even know what the story was. Doesn't matter. But all of the Rangers in green of their own suits to match the Green Ranger and stuff like that. Like what you're describing as the Challengers. That stuff, sticks out. We talked about on probably both of our Marvel Rivals broadcasts, or all, however many we've been doing so far. The multiversity, the crossoverness of it all, and how that's something that we want to see. And I feel like that's part of what we are really seeing across so much storytelling. We've heard Kevin Feige talk about how there's hopes of us getting to see Tom Holland crossover with Charlie Cox's Daredevil in some kind of story. That would be amazing. Will we get around to seeing it? Who knows? Especially when it comes to actual film and television. I don't really believe until we start seeing set photos. And even then, I don't really believe until we have a release date that we're within 6 months of. Because stuff happens. COVID, among other things. But I hope that we are starting to see stories like that, because I think that's the kind of stuff that people are excited about. People love taking their action figures and mashing them together, and that's sort of the stories that we're finally starting to get, because these characters are so ubiquitous that you can just smash.
Kevo, the fact that you brought it back to something that TK said at the top of this episode is amazing. I could not agree more. It sometimes does feel like these writers are just trying to take their toys and smash them. Did you say where we can find you?
I don't remember, but you can find me on the socials at Kevo Really. That's KevoReally.
I love it. TK, I'm going to pose you a slightly different question. If Marvel did an all-in, what minor concept would you love to see get the Challengers of the Unknown treatment, and where can everybody find that amazing, handsome Marvel Rivals play-in face?
A minor concept. I think it would probably have something to do with Taya.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great answer.
I think Taya is a really cool character. Taya, for those who don't know, is Galactus's mother. Galactus having come to our universe from a previous universe. And so Taya is important, but also not in the same way that Galactus is, where Galactus is kind of a fundamental part of the universal equation. So anyway, I would go with Taya. I always think Taya is cool. And yeah, find me at TK Elemental if you want to talk about such things. I don't have a question for you, Nico. What are we gonna... I don't know. Answer your own question.
I guess it's slingers. If there was
you would have them investigate
about,
slingers.
No, I would have slingers be important.
Got it.
That
okay.
Spider-Men And every version of Spider-Men, Spider-Women, Spider-Girls are so significant to reality that they get their own verse. And there's Venom verse, and I bet there's Carnage verse, and I bet we're 6 seconds away from Toxin verse. But the Slingers don't ever really find themselves in that. What is it about these outliers that is so significant that they are not a part of the Spider-Verse, the Venom-verse, etc., but they were so important to this moment in time? This moment which was Onslaught, this moment which was Heroes Reborn, this moment which was the Malibu-verse folding back into the Marvel Universe, this moment that was Painkiller Jane and Wolverine teaming up. So, like, it was an instant, because for those of you who aren't aware of what I'm referring to, Painkiller Jane is one of the final creations by none other than Joe Quesada, before he would become the editor-in-chief of Marvel. So, like, there's a lot to be said for this period of time. I would absolutely love to dive into that with you. It would be a real treat. But beyond that, you guys can find out more about me at Nico Action, NicoAction, more about my music at Nico Action Music, NicoActionMusic. But I see a whole lot of important things in this show. So if you guys want to check out more about this show, that's HTML Husbands Talking More or Less, the previous incarnation starring me and Kevo. But if you want to check out this incarnation, that's X's for Show. Hey guys, what's up? On all of your socials, including YouTube. I was trying so hard not to clear my throat on air. Anyway, 3 things you guys can do for us. That's like, comment, and subscribe. We guys would really appreciate if you would help us affect this algorithm, like we are trying to change the system. Hey, Gottmik. But 3 things you guys can do for yourselves. Number 1, please, please, please be brave. It's a scary world, but who you are is so important to us. Number 2, stay safe, because we want to see who you are continue every single day, so that you can, number 3, evolve daily. Because who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, amazing. But who you are tomorrow is the dream. So we can't wait to make it. Laugh. It was a good delivery. We cannot wait to see you there. So until then, stay incredible, and we'll see you.